The limud of Amud Yomi has been dedicated for Chodesh Tishrei by Ronnie and Aviva Kashri for their health, prosperity of their entire family, and their aliyah, and tzlacha b'Torah, and nachat from their children, and also sponsored by Shahab and Shenaz Rabbi, the health, prosperity, and nachat of their entire family and their growth in Torah, the learnings of the entire KBT for Chodesh Tishrei has been sponsored by Yehuda and Leah Masjedi for the Rafah Shalom of Daniel ben Sarah, and health, happiness, and success of their children, Eden, Rivka, Aryeh, and Yeshua. They shall have much nachat from all of them. Amen.
Amen.
So, says the Gemara, Amar Rav Tanchum, Amar Rav Asi, Amar Rav Yeshua ben Levi, Ta velo yizkir shel Rosh Chodesh ba'avodah chozer la'avodah. Until now, we were discussing what happens if you missed Havdalah in Choron Hadat. What happens if you miss Mashiva Ruach Morit HaGeshem? How about V'ten Talmutar Livracha in Birkat HaShalim? Now we are turning our attention to Rosh Chodesh. If I forgot Ya'aleh V'Yavo, do I go back and daven again? Do I not go back and daven again? What's the halacha? Says the Gemara. Rav Tanchum said in the name of Rasi, in the name of Rabbi Shimon Levi, Ta velo yizkir shel Rosh Chodesh ba'avodah. If you did not say Rosh Chodesh in the bracha of avodah, chozer la'avodah, you have to go back to, let's say, you have to go back to the beginning of the Birkat Avodah in order to say it. It's makev. You can't do without it. Niskar behoda'ah, if you remembered it in hoda'ah, in the bracha of modim, you go back again to avodah to retzeh. Besim shalom, you remembered in the next bracha, the bracha of sim shalom, again chozer la'avodah, you go back to bracha of retzeh. Ve'im siyem, but if you already finished your bracha, it's not in modim, it's not in sim shalom, you didn't remember all the way until you finished your tefillah, then you have to go back to Hashem Sfatay Tiftach L'Rosh HaTfilah. Amar Papa explains this. He says, not so simple, not so fast. Amar Papa Breh Rav Acha bar Adam, the son of Rav Acha bar Adam, Hadam Amaran, Siyem Chozer L'Rosh. This that we say, if you finish the tefillah, you have to go back to the beginning. If you forgot to say Ya'aleh V'Yavo, it's not in every case that you forgot and you finished the tefillah. Finishing means you are really done. When are you really done? Well, we're Jews, we're never really done, right? Until I'm standing there, I'm still like, I can remember something else. That daven for this person, that's akara, and that person that needs a shidduch. This, Baruch Hashem, tzadikim, amech kulam tzadikim. You may remember you want to still daven. Your mind is still at tefillah. So therefore, Ro Amaran, ela sha'akara klav. You already started stepping back. You uprooted your feet to go back and say Oseh Shalom. Then already you're finished. But if you're still standing there, even though that you finished saying you still not done. So says the Gemara, he told him, how do you know this? How do you know? Where do you get this? What's the source of this? He says, you know what the source is? I heard it from my father, Rav Acha bar Ada. I heard it from my father, Rav Acha bar Ada, who heard it from Rav. Amar le Ma'aba Mari, from Avi Mori, from my father, my teacher, and Shimi Ali, I heard it. The Abba Mari and my father heard it from Rav. Great. Now, the Gemara says other fine tunes of this. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Hada Amaran Akar Raglav Chozer L'Rosh. There are going to be two different versions of Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. So just pay attention to the difference. It says this that we said that if you uprooted your feet and you went back, now you have to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei and start Hashem Sfatay Tiftach again. Says Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Lo Amaran ela shenu ragil lomar tachanunim achar tfilato. That's only for a person that when he steps back and says Oseh Shalom, doesn't stand there and daven more of his private tefillot to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But if you have a routine, every time that you go back you stand there after say shalom, and you say more tefillot, more bakashot, you ask for more things from Hashem, and that's a routine part of your tefillah. The fact that you stepped back 3 steps doesn't stop your tefillah, you're still davening. And therefore, you could go back to Birkat Avodah instead of going back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. So Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, if you are one of those that does it afterwards as well, and does it as a routine, every day you go back and you stand there and you daven more tefillot, that's part of your tefillah, you're now finished with. That's one version of Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. Says the Gemara, Avar ragil lomar tachanunim achar tfilato chozer la'avodah. If you are ragil, if you always ask for things after you step out, you still are in the middle of tefillah. The stepping does not change that reality, the fact that you're still in the middle of tefillah. Says the Gemara, Ika Damri, there are those who say, Rabbi Nachman Bar Yitzchak never said this. He said something else. What did he say? Ha da'amaran, he said like this, that we say, Ki lo akar rak lav chozer la'avodah, that when is it that if you have not stepped back, you don't go back to beginning of Hashem's Tzvata, you only go back to Retzei. That's only when you are standing at the end of Tefillah and still adding your own stuff. In other words, imagine a person that said he's done with the text. Says, right? And standing there thinking about stock market, right?
Hoping that it's going to go up.
hoping against hope it's going to go up, right? So then you're done with your tefillah. You're not asking for anything unless you're asking for a stock market, right? If you're thinking about your business, Ariya Kadosh, they had a very special minyan in Sfat, right? It's an all-star minyan. Maran was the Rav. Rav Shlomo Al-Kabetz was the Chazan. Al-Sheikh HaKadosh davened there. And Ariya Kadosh. You can imagine, right? So that's it. Like, you can't get more all-star than that. And the story has it, again, every 100 years that you go back, there's another question mark added to the stories. But this is a very famous one. They say, Maran always davened the shorter tefillah than the Ariya Kadosh. Imagine, Ariya Kadosh probably had the kavanot of Rashash as well, right? And one day, Ariya Kadosh finished and Maran is still standing. So he tells the Gabbai, he knew what people were thinking. He tells the Gabbai in his ear something, right? To go whisper in the Maran's ear, and he goes and says, and Maran right away steps back and finishes the tefillah. Happens to be that he knew that Maran was, this was before Pesach, Maran was contemplating Bat Alacha of what happens if you have flour for Pesach that you want, that's on a donkey or a horse, and they're running, they're walking, sweating. It's that machmitz. It's not machmitz. So halachot about this. So he told him some sarcastic thing about the ze'ah v'chamor being in the person's tefillah, right? So of course, it's Ariya Kadosh. People walked in the street, they covered their forehead, and they didn't want him to know what they've been through their life. So that's Ariya Kadosh. But nevertheless, if you're standing there thinking about the ze'ah of chamor, so then you're not davening anymore. You finish with the tefillah. So says Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, the second version, that if you are standing, we said, if you haven't akar raklav, if you have not stepped back yet, you don't go back to the beginning of tefillah. You only go back to retzei. That's only if I am still involved with asking for something, even though I finished the regular text of tefillah, but I'm still doing my own bakashot. But if I'm done and I'm thinking about who knows what, then you're technically speaking done with your tefillah, and therefore you go back to the beginning of the tefillah. That's only if you are accustomed to say tachanunim, to ask for your own bakashot, you're begging and beseeching HaKadosh Baruch Hu, on behalf of your own needs. That's when you go back to retzei. If you are not accustomed to daven private bakashot and tefillot after your tefillah, chozer lerosh, then even though that you have not stepped back yet, you go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei, the beginning of tefillah. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, 2 dots by the Gemara. Rabbi Eliezer Omer ha'oseh tfilato keva and tfilato tachanunim. Right, that's what we learned in the Mishnah. Now, if you make your tefillah kavua set, your tefillah is not considered a mercy. You're not asking for mercy of HaKadosh. It's not a good tefillah, right? No good. So my keva, what does it mean? Somebody that makes his tefillah keva, what does that mean exactly? Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yaakov Bar Idi, Amar Rav Oshaya, Kol shetfilato domeh alav kemasoy. That's for a person that the tefillah is like a burden. You just want to check the box and say, Baruch Hashem, Shacharit, Hashem Berachem until Mincha, we'll figure out what we have to do. But, we have to check the box. I'm frum, so I have to daven, Nebach. That's going through tefillah to just turn enough pages until you get to Alon Shabeach, and you're not actually connecting with the tefillah. Says the Gemara, Rabbanan Amri, Rabbanan say, no. Kol mi she'eno omrah belashon tachanunim. It's a person that does not say the tefillah in the language of tachanunim, of asking for Hashem's mercy. The Meiri says it's a person that davens quick and he wants to get it over with. He's not actually connecting with the words of tefillah to use the words of tefillah as tools of asking Hashem for His mercy, but he's just going through the text. To finish it up, that's considered en tfilatot tachanunim. Rabbi of Rav Yosef de Amri Tarvaihu. The third opinion is from Rabbi and Rav Yosef that they say kol she'eno yachol lechadesh ba davar. If you cannot say something of your own in tefillah, that means your tefillah is not connective, because the tefillah is a set text. But when you are actually davening properly, then it connects the words of the tefillah to your private life. And then when you say, Barech Aleinu, you speak about this person that you just heard that their daughter committed suicide and the father left the house, and now and they don't have no parnasah. It's what's on your mind, and you start davening for it because it's or they say, you think of the Gemara that you just did Chazara and you didn't remember the first time you even did this Gemara, right? The life becomes part of your tefillah, and therefore that's what the Meiri explains. Says you're davening fast enough that it doesn't connect with your life. That is considered a masoy. You're carrying a burden. It's not part of my life, right? That's what Rabbi was to say. Again, if you are connective with the words of tefillah and you know of somebody that needs refuah shelema and it's on your mind during your life and you're not thinking about it when you say the bracha refaenu, so what does that exactly mean? It either means you have to do carpool and you have to rush, or it means that you're not connecting with the tefillah. It's either or, right? So if it's the second one, then it's a masoy, because you're not davening in a way that your life becomes part of the tefillah or tefillah becomes part of your life. You're just disconnecting from your reality to finish up what they say, daven up. You're davening up the words to check the box and go out.
How does that correlate, for example, places where they have like 5, 6 minutes for Shemona Esrei, then Hazara starts, and you're at Modeh.
You don't go there. No, the Gemara says Amar Rab Zera, and I mean that. A minimum proper tefillah takes 7 minutes. If you are a regular person, there are people. I had a chavruta. I never understood this. I'm not saying you to get any ideas. There's a gaon. He's like a genius, and his genius in a way that's weird. The brain is too fast, too big. He would doubt his Shemona Esrei took less than 40 seconds. I can't understand how it works. He used to daven next to me. It would disturb me, the fact that I was by his first bracha and he was stepping back. And once he stepped back, he had like 10, 15 sfarim, switching between them. It's a different type of a normal speed of mind. A normal speed of mind, it takes 7 minutes if you want to understand the words properly and connect to the tefillah. So if it's a place that is not your speed, go to a place that's your speed. If it takes you 40 seconds, then go there.
If you go somewhere and they're doing chazara, but you're still having kavanah, you're allowed to continue in this chazara, right?
That's correct, of course. But again, Marash Charuch writes that if you daven together and you can't make it to not even modim, but even earlier than that, we said this in the Charuch Shiur. By Nacht Tishach, there are precautions that has to be taken, not for now, right now, but nevertheless, says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Zera said, I can be mechadesh tavar. I am connecting with my tefillah. I'm saying it properly. I could be mechadesh. I could say things, new things every time because I'm connecting. But I am very concerned because I don't have the sidur. If I start going to my own bakashot, I'm afraid I'm going to miss the order of tefillah and get confused and confuse myself. Therefore, I don't do it. But what I am davening, I'm connecting with. I'm concerned that when I do it, I'm going to get confused. So Rabbi Akiva, when he was a shaliach tzibur, he would daven like a mensch. Well, daven like a mensch anyways. He would daven like a regular person, right? And he would finish with the tzibur. When he would daven alone, you would put him on this corner, you would find him on the other corner. He would do long tefillah, he would do ishtachavaya, he would get up from ishtachavaya, it would be a little bit, off the place. It would be all over the place, davening completely mufka from the Welt, completely removed from the reality of the physical world around him. That's how he would connect. Abaye bar Avin, Rab Chanina bar Avin, the Abaye and Rab Chanina bar Avin, the Amrit Arvaihu, they both said, you know what he means? A tefillah that is keva, it means a person that does not daven with dimdumei achama. What's dimdumei achama? There are two pshatim. Either it comes from Adom, language of Adom. That means in the morning when the sun comes above the horizon, or right before it comes above, it becomes the horizon becomes red, right? East becomes red. And when Shkiat HaChama is happening by Mincha time, west becomes red. And those are the times this Gemara is referring to both Shacharit and Mincha. It's the concept that we alluded to it beforehand. Is really the Gemara that's saying this. The Kaf HaChaim brings it that the Chatchila, a person should daven Mincha right before Shkia. Right? There's a concept of davening Mincha Ktana versus Mincha Gedola. Right? If you have an option of davening Mincha Ktana or Mincha Gedola, better to daven Mincha Ktana right before sunset because of this Gemara, right? And says the Gemara, why is that considered keva? Why is that considered a bad tefillah if I don't daven? Because you're just saying, okay, I have from half an hour after chatzot until shkia, I'll just daven wherever I can. Versus a person that says, no, I want to do it the best way possible, right? I want to daven the best way possible. We spoke about this by Vatikin, the Gemara, earlier on in the Vav, the Chet, that they were doing it with Netzach Hama, and Rashi said they're medaktekin b'mitzvot. There are people who are humble and they are medaktek b'mitzvot. They are looking for saying, when is the best time what's the best way I could do this? That tefillah is not keva because you're looking to connect the best way possible versus saying, I just do it whenever it comes. First minyan I get, right? Consider a person that says, Shabbat morning, where do you daven? If I wake up Netz, I go to Netz. If I wake up at 7 o'clock, I go to this shul. I go to 8 o'clock, I go to that shul. 9 o'clock, I go to that shul. I want to say 10 o'clock, I go to that shul, right? But that's kill. That's like, you're the ikar, and the tefillah is tafel. Whereas the tefillah is tafel, ikar. Say, if you have a set makom for your tefillah, and okay, Abraham Bezros is the Gemara. You must have a proper set makom for tefillah, and you have to have the best time. But someone that really cares about tefillah, that tefillah is a tefillah. Otherwise, is keva, says the one. Right? This is heavy, intense. Says the Gemara. Dama Rabbi Bar Abba. Rabbi Bar Abba said, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, mitzvah litpalel im dimdumei hachama. It's mitzvah to daven with dimdumei hachama. That means shacharit you daven with nets, and mincha you daven right before, mamash right before shkia, as the sky is red. So therefore, if you care about tefillah, you would do it not like a mensch. And if you don't, then that tefillah is keva. You don't really care about tefillah. You just want to check the box. I daven shacharit, I daven mincha. Says the Gemara, Maikara, how do you know that this is a mitzvah to do that? Says the Gemara, because it says, I want to see you with the sun. When the sun comes up, you also come up. When the sun goes down, you're also connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Kaf HaChaim writes, there's a mitzvah to connect the day and night always with Torah. That means when night turns into day, and when day turns into night, you should be learning or davening, connecting with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In those connective times, you should be also connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which again, if you go really after Alot HaShachar, it is, and by night as well, that is based on this pasuk as well. Now, the Gemara says, unlike you would think, in Eretz Yisrael, they would curse a person that would wait to daven mincha right mamash with shkia. Why? Because you stand to say Asher Yeshua B'techa, and then you get a call from your wife, or better said, from your mother-in-law, right? And there goes Tfilat Mincha, right? Or you get an emergency. You may not be able to daven. You may not be able to daven, so you're taking a risk of maybe not being able to daven, and therefore you're not a responsible person. You have to always leave for yourself. They said in Eretz Yisrael, you have to always leave a cushion of emergencies, that even if something goes wrong, I still am not going to miss mincha. Therefore, they were not happy with someone that did it right before shkia. Says the Gemara. My tama, why? Dilma mitrefa leh shata. Maybe your time shah is going to be mitrefet. Some emergency is going to come up, and you're not going to be able to end up davening. Says the Gemara, 2 dots, 3 lines up from wide lines. We learned the Mishnah that Rabbi Yeshua holds if you're going in a dangerous place, they can't wait and daven a proper regular Shemona Esrei. You daven a short tefillah ktsara. So says the Gemara, what is tefillah ktsara? Bechor parashat ha'ibur, the Mishnah said, in every parashat ha'ibur, you sorchehem lefanecha. Hashem, in every parashat ibur, the needs of the Jews should be in front of you. The Gemara says, what is parashat ibur? In every parashat ha'ibur, you should think about your people, the Jews. What is exactly parashat ha'ibur? Says the Gemara, my parashat ha'ibur. Amar Rav Chisda, first wide line. Amar Mor Ukva. Afilu b'shah she'ata mitmaleh alehem evra. Ibur comes from the language of evra. Evra means what? Wrath and anger. Even when you are filled on the Jews with anger, even when they're not behaving, so to speak, ke'isha ubara, like a pregnant woman that she is filled with the pregnancy, you're filled with anger, over the Jews. All of their needs should still be in front of them. Moshe Cordovero writes in Tomer Devorah so beautifully. He says that's the meaning, especially coming off Yamin Uraim saying hundreds and hundreds of times the Yud Gimel Midot, the entire Sefer Tomer Devorah, it's a must read for every Yid, is about explaining how the Gemara basically that says anytime the Jews do this, Hashem guarantees that He's going to be forgiving them. Says, how do you do it? You have to understand what He means to be able to emulate it. So the entire Sefer is basically explaining the Yag Midot and how it pertains to human beings. It says, Nosei avo erech hapayim. Hashem is, hard to anger. He's very patient. And Nosei avon, he says, what's Nosei avon? That means you create a malach whenever you do an avera. Kol ha'oseh mitzvah achat, kol praklit achat. When you do a mitzvah, you create a good malach. When you do an avera, chas v'shalom, you make it. And who is sustaining that malach? You have no sustenance to give to anything. Right? Hashem is giving sustenance to the negative malach you created. He is no se avon. He's carrying your avon at the same time that he's giving you chiyut when you are rebelling against him. Not only that, he's also carrying your creation of negativity of that malach. Tremendous, right? And then he connects it with people with examples, which is tremendous. So here it says, even when you're angry, you're full of this negativity that they're creating, you're carrying it like a pregnant woman, you should still have Rahmanut on your people. Beautiful. Says the Gemara. Ika de Amri, second one time. Amar Abchista Amar Ukva, same person, said different thing. Afilu b'shashem ufrim. Parashat Ibur comes from language of over, transgression. Even when they are transgressing on Divrei Torah, you should still care about them, Hashem. Don't forsake them. Do not forget them. And still be there for them. Tal Rabbanan, we learned if you're going in a dangerous place, there are wild animals, they're bandits, they're dangerous people. You could daven tefillah ktsara. What is considered tefillah ktsara, says the Gemara? Rabbi Eliezer Omer, there are a few versions of this. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Eliezer says, this is it. Hashem, do your will in Shamayim, up above in the heavens, and give calmness to people who fear you, mitachat, down here on the earth, and whatever is good in your eyes, do for us. Baruch atah Hashem shomea tefillah. That's it. That's the whole tefillah. Rabbi Yeshua, the chavruta of Rabbi Eliezer, his peer, says a little different. Shema shavat amecha. Hashem, when the Jews, when your nation call out to you, shav'ah is a little bit more intense than tefillah. When you're, crying out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hear their cries. And quickly do what they ask for. Baruch atah Hashem, shomea tefillah. That's the second version. Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Tzadok Omer, a third version yet. Almost identical with the second one. Just with one word different. Shema instead of Shavat is Sakat. The Maharsha says one of them is more intense than the other one. You're in a place of wild animals and robbers, is it? So it's pretty intense. So this one perhaps is a little more intense than the previous one, the different gisaot in the Gemara here, tefillah, sa'aka. But nevertheless, it's basically identical with one word difference. Instead of Shavat, Amecha is Sakat, Amecha Yisrael, V'aseh me'era bakashatam, Baruch atah Hashem, shomea tefillah. Acherim omrim, the fourth and final version. Gemara says, Acherim say, Sorchei Amecha, usually when the Gemara says Acherim, who is it, by the way? Is Rabbi Meir. Why is Rabbi Meir called Acherim? Because of one or two reasons, a simple of face value. A, because he was a student of Elisha ben Avuya. And even after Elisha ben Avuya strayed from path and everyone kind of like separated themselves from Elisha, Rabbi Meir was the only one that didn't. He would still go to learn by him. He was completely connected with his Rabbi, Elisha Acher. And Chazal actually asked, he said, wait a second, your Rebbe has to be like Malach Hashem Tzvakot. How can you learn from him when he's not like Malach Hashem? So no, Rabbi Meir was so capable that it's like he found a pomegranate. You could eat the fruit and spit the psolet, the garbage. So he could differentiate what most people can't. When you look up to someone, you can't differentiate between their psolet and their good, and therefore it's dangerous. You don't want to learn from a Rebbe like that. But Rabbi Meir was different, right? So he learned by him. The Gemara says even they were going on Shabbat. Elisha ben Avuya was horseback riding, which is asur to do on Shabbat. And Rabbi Meir was walking with him, learning Torah. And at some point, he halts the horse and says, okay, Meir, go back. So what, go back for what? He said, you just reached your Tchum Shabbat. So how do you know? He said, I counted the steps of my horse and I translated it to feet. Can you imagine, he's teaching Torah at the same time his brain was working. Tremendous personality of Torah. So Meir was flabbergasted. He said, you also should go back. So you telling me to go back? You should go back to Torah. Like, become Chazer with Tshuva. And of course, he answered and he said, Gemara said, I already heard from Achorei Pargod, Shuvu Banim Shavavim Chutz Me'acher. Everyone could go back aside from Acher. Which Hashem wanted to make Tshuva hard for him, but doesn't mean that he can. He should have said, no, I'm coming back. Never give up on Tshuva. So says the Gemara, that's one pshat. The other pshat is, because halakha is not like Rabbi Meir, like Gemara says in Horayot Daf Gimel, that halakha is not like Rabbi Meir, even though that he was the greatest of the Chachamim, halakha is not like him because they never knew when he is exercising and when he is serious, because he was such a capable mind to take a sheretz that is tameh and prove in front of you with 49 different proofs that this is tahor, beyond the shadow of a doubt. And you could do the reverse also. You could take something tahor and prove to you that's tameh. And people didn't know when he actually means it, when he's just exercising different sfarot. And therefore, halakha normally is not like Rabbi Meir, and therefore is acher. Says the Gemara. Acherim say, and that's the halakha, this tefillah k'tzara is sorchei amecha Yisrael merubim. There are a lot of needs of the Jews. But the atam k'tzara and their da'at is very limited. Now, the Mefarshim say, Maharsha, for instance, says the atam k'tzara because they are in. Remember, this is a person that's going in the place of wild animals and bandits and robbers and so on. So the brain is not focused to daven a proper tefillah. So that's what it means, the atam k'tzara. Others say no, simply the atam k'tzara means they don't even know what's good for them. We don't know. Even in the best of the days, we don't, the atam k'tzara, right? Therefore, Yehiratzon milefanecha, Hashem should be will in front of you. Hashem Elokeinu shetiten lekol echad v'echad k'dei parnasato. You should give everyone what they need for their support. Or chol k'viyah v'givah d'matzorah. Any body and body, any person and person, what they are lacking in their life, in their avodah. Baruch ata Hashem shomei tefillah. And that's the tefillah k'tzar. Amar Rav Huna halacha ke'acherim. Rav Huna said halacha is like this last version from acherim. Amar le Eliyahu le Rav Yehuda. Eliyahu Navi said to Rav Yehuda a bunch of advice. Says the Gemara. No, there are many places. Actually, Stam Mishnah, halacha is like Stam Mishnah. Right? We have a general rule. The halacha is like Stam Mishnah. And we have a general assumption that Stam Mishnah is Rabbi Meir. Right? So halacha a lot of times is like Rabbi Meir when Rabbi Yehuda Nasi decided to pass like him, and he knew that that's the time that Rabbi Meir. But Rabbi Meir v'chavero, halacha k'chavero. If you have a set, regular machloket, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir, any of his friends, halacha is like the friend. Right? That's what we mean when we say halacha is not like Rabbi Meir. There's not something be'etzim against it. Again, when according to the first pshat that we said, one of the reasons that we call him acherim, we don't mention his name when the halacha is like him, is because he was a talmid of Elisha Acher. We don't want to mention his name because of his connection with Elisha ben Avuya. We just say acherim. Aside from the fact that acherim and acher also is similar, so there's what to be said about that. Says the Gemara, Achod Rav Salah Chasida, he told Eliyahu Navi said to Rabbi Yehuda, the brother of Rav Salah Chasida, Lo tirtach velo techeti. Don't get angry and you won't sin. You want to not sin? Don't get angry, right? And that's exactly reminiscent of the beginning of Igeret Ramban, the famous letter of Ramban that he wrote to his son. Ramban was exiled to Eretz Yisrael after the debate that he had with his former student that became a Christian. His new name now was Pablo Cristiani. And it's a Sefer HaVikuach that Ramban actually wrote in his Kitvei Ramban. So Ramban was forced into a debate in front of the king and the church. and he completely destroyed in a very, very humiliating way the entire second side of the debate, to the degree that the king felt uncomfortable keeping him in the country. He said, you could leave, right? So he actually wrote that he thinks it's Mina Shamayim that this happened, because he felt that conquest and living in Eretz Yisrael, even Bizman Hazeh, is a mitzvah d'oraita. Ramban wrote a sefer mitzvot of the Rambam. He counted his own 613 mitzvot, and he argued with the Rambam in certain mitzvot's count, certain things that he counted the Rambam does not bring, and he calls it mitzvot sheshechachan harav, the mitzvot the Rambam forgot to count. So in mitzvot aseh dalet, in the fourth mitzvot aseh, he counts this mitzvah of the conquest of Eretz Yisrael, of living in Eretz Yisrael, as a mitzvot aseh. So he said, because I hold that it's mitzvot aseh to live there, it's happening for me like this. It's the last 3 years of his life, he lived in Eretz Yisrael. So when he was there, he sent this very famous letter, Igeret Ramban, and the entire thing starts with kas. How bad kas is, says, Haser kas mi musarech, take kas milibecha, take kas out of your heart, and you will remove any negativity from your physical and spiritual life. So that basically comes from this. He actually quotes this Gemara as well. Lo tirtach velo techete. Do not get angry, and you won't sin. Says the Gemara. Lo tirve velo techete. Don't drink, don't become drunk, and don't sin. Hashtag Kiddush Club. Velo techete. Uchshata yotze lederech. And when you go to derech, when you go, on a path to travel, himalech bekonecha, you should ask advice from your master, right? Take permission from your master, from Hashem, and then go out. Says Gemara, ma himalech bekonecha. What does that mean? Take permission. How do you take permission from Hashem? Says Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yaakov, Amar Rav Chisda, Zut Tfilat HaDerech. It means you say Tfilat HaDerech. Anyone that goes out on a path to travel, he needs to say Tfilat HaDerech. My Tfilat HaDerech. What is Tfilat HaDerech? We will see Bezrat Hashem tomorrow morning.
Wednesday morning, yeah?
Correct. Wednesday morning, I mean.
Wow, it's longer.
It is. We should
You
do
could
it tomorrow.
chazar the whole Gemara.
Okay.
We are contemplating to have a long table